to that society. Yeah. And different society, a French society, could have a different truth.
So one can be easily confused by saying, you know what, truth is relative to what this community of people think, but it's not true to me.
If you were raised
So what is true to you?
No, listen. If you were raised in Nazi Germany, you would believe the truth is that Jews are bad. It's very unlikely, and Jordan Peterson proved that in some sort of discussions, it's very unlikely that you would believe differently. So your truth is literally based on where you live, where you're from, who raised you, etc. If truth is to be something that is marinated in your head and then pops up and all of a sudden it's true because you have this confirmation bias from your society, then there is no such a thing as truth.
Okay, let me give you an example to illustrate what I'm saying. If a large community of people consider God exists, then it's true that God exists. Is that what you're saying?
Within that society, yeah.
Yeah. So if everyone decides now, we do not exist, it means we do not exist.
That means
That's
that
the
this
truth.
is your truth.
So the reality,
I can disagree or I can go whatever.
so the reality can be based on people's thoughts about what they think is true, or it could be independent of them. Is that right?
Reality is...
Does this cosmos exist?
Reality is your experience
Okay.
of what reality is.
Does this cosmos
The
exist?
person with a schizophrenia will have a completely different
Okay.
reality. They will have hallucinations.
Let's go back
and that
to-
will be their reality.
I want to illustrate with this
reality
example of the
is
cosmos.
subjective too.
Okay. Do we see the cosmos in existence?
I guess I don't see
Yeah.
much.
The world around us, right?
Yeah.
Existence. Now suppose all of us agree that this is non-existent. Is that the reality?
I guess so.
But the reality is it exists,
Reality is subjective.
independent of our subjective opinions about it.
No, because we agree it exists.
No, we agree it doesn't exist.
No, what we agree.
If we agree it doesn't exist, does it make it non-existent?
What we're saying, what you're confusing here.
Let me clarify my question. If we all agree it doesn't exist, does it make it non-existent?
What you're confusing is the fact we all agree it exists.
No,
But
you misunderstand.
Let me finish.
But you misunderstand my question.
Let me finish.
My question is, if we all agree the reality,
But
we
your
do not
agreement
exist,
of
does
how
it make it
it
non-existent? Is my question.
What the difference is what we agree. Our difference is how we agree it came to be and how it exists.
You don't understand my question and my position.
Determines,
Maybe I can ask you again.
reason or logic.
You misunderstood my question.
You didn't
If we
understand
all
it.
agree that nothing exists, we don't exist.
Well, you already asked me this question. I
Now,
already answered it.
now, does it make it non-existent?
Yeah, in your purpose.
In reality,
Talking about
does it make it non-existent in reality? The truth.
You are the only.
He's been
Imagine you are the
insincere.
only camera observing something happening.
He's insincere.
Then you are the only camera. If you switch off the camera, then nothing that the camera sees will exist. So if you died tomorrow,
The illustration that I gave, if all of us agreed that we are non-existent, the reality is what I'm asking you.
He's been insincere.
Is their existence in reality, not what we thought and we agreed upon?
I don't think there is an objective reality.
I didn't ask you that.
There are human beings that by genetics
I only
are
asked you-
able to perceive reality in particular schematic way, and then they view it.
See, if
I
we all
don't
agree,
believe that. For example, if you ask me, do I believe there is a fifth or sixth or seventh dimension, but we don't view it? Yeah, if you can prove there
see,
is, then there is.
my
but I cannot
my
see
my
it.
simple illustration was of the existence all around us. The fact that
You basically asked
the,
me,
the,
asking
the
me
fact that
objective, and I
the
said
fact
there
that
is no such a thing.
the fact that you and I are speaking to each other is because we consider each other as existent. Now suppose we all agreed for whatever reason that we do not exist. Does that make us non-existent in reality?
Only if you agree with it.
But you said truth is
In reality.
agreement.
There is no community that would think that form.
What is the answer, sorry?
There will be
If
always
you
somebody that
decide
say,
that you
I
don't
think reality
exist, then I
does
guess you
exist.
don't. I mean,
Therefore,
I have
it does
nothing
exist.
else to tell you. I answered your question.
But you know very well in
Very
reality
very clearly.
we exist. Doesn't matter whether this person or you or me decide that we don't. The reality is independent of our opinions.
There is no way you make it.
I may believe there's a tree there, or I may believe the tree is not there. The tree is independent of my belief.
Because you
The tree
base-
exists independent of me.
You base on an idea that there's an absolute truth. I don't believe.
I've just
that-
demonstrated there is. So you are saying, if we all agree that we are non-existent, in reality that makes us non-existent. And yet we are talking.
Because no one agrees on what you've said.
Two non-existent beings are talking.
I didn't say I don't exist,
But if we agree that we don't,
but I didn't agree with you.
He's wrong.
what if people do? Because your definition of truth was agreement. If people agree. Suppose we agreed. We gave you money and you agreed.
Did he agree I don't exist?
Imagine we paid him. I paid you for the sake of argument, and then you agreed. So yeah, we don't exist.
Well then.
Our agreement doesn't make it reality. Our reality is independent of what we think. If I think that tree is existent or not, the tree exists independent of my thinking.
So I had this question prior. How do you explain higher dimensions?
What dimensions?
Just higher dimensions.
No,
There's three-dimensional space, right?
Yeah.
Then there's time. We live in that sort of heart of what is possible, right? So how do we explain dimensions that you cannot perceive?
We can only talk about dimensions that we know of.
So your purview is restricted, right? So you have to.
We have to
agree, or you
operate.
have to be-
We have to operate in this world with the rational faculty that we have, with the tools that we have, to discuss things rationally and logically. I cannot just simply say, "Oh, a triangular circle or a squared circle exists somewhere else," because in our reality it doesn't exist. So I have to operate with this kind of rational understanding in this reality.
Perfect circles don't exist. It's the opposite.
Triangular square.
Perfect circle, for example.
I didn't say
don't
perfect.
exist, right? Or
Triangular
perfect
circle.
Square, or perfect triangle. That's trigonometry and the
Triangular circle? Triangular square.
What you're talking about was invented by humans.
No, I'm
That's
talking
not
about
invented by nature.
there are things that we operate because of our rational faculties.
No, because you called something to be this or that. The tree is a tree.
Do you live your life according to certain principles, logic and rationality? Of course you do.
Yeah.
So that's what we operate our lives and our understanding of reality on. Our reality,
Agreement on what reality is.
so if I agree God exists because of my agreement, right?
To you, yeah.
No, to you as well, because I agree God exists, it must
You
be
didn't
agree.
agree with me. I don't agree that God exists.
Then basically has nothing to do with truth. It is just simply my word play. Oh, I think I am the president. Okay, I am the president of
Yeah, but
you know,
it's not
Zamunda.
about God,
Does it
right?
make me a president?
He's
Because I
not in
think
a
so.
position about God
Brother,
and
can we
purpose.
have
So
one
how do
discussion,
you
please?
recall
Let's
to
relax, man,
materialistic, factual, tree is a tree to a God is a God when you cannot perceive God really? So
What is
like,
God?
how-
What is God?
Something that was invented by people to cheer themselves up, to reinforce their own grandiosity.
Okay.
That's God.
And what is the qualities of God people are giving?
It's a magical father there in the sky.
I don't call him the Father.
That
I don't call him the Father.
well, different religions call it the father, different religions.
I don't.
Well, you don't have to. I'm just saying.
So your understanding of God comes from a belief system in which
I
they
don't
call him.
understand God. I'm not pretending I do, and I'm not interested in trying to understand God because I don't believe He exists.
And what's your reason for that?
My choice.
Choice.
There is no other reason
Okay.
besides that
If I
chose.
choose to believe that you don't exist, you don't exist. It's my choice, right?
It's to you.
No. If I don't believe you exist because of my choice, you don't exist.
Well, maybe He believes I exist.
No, I don't. So you don't exist, right? I just want to understand the.
To you, no.
I want to understand the rationality, the logic that you're using. So if I choose not to believe that you exist, it makes you
But
non-existent.
we are talking about God, and you're talking about rationality. So I don't.
I asked you the
understand
reason why
context.
the reasons of non-belief in God. You said choice.
Yeah, I don't need God.
Yeah. So I don't need to believe that you exist
So don't.
because I don't need to consider yourself you're important enough in this life.
But you're comparing something that you can see right now in front of you to something that is imagined somewhere else.
Imagine.
Yeah, pretty much.
What color is gravity?
Whatever you imagine it to be.
And whatever
If you
your
imagine it
community
green, then it's
agrees.
gonna be
But
green.
you believe in it. You imagine it and you believe in it.
If your community agrees.
You believe in gravity without seeing what color it is. Without your senses telling you,
Can it be proven though?
of course not.
Can gravity be proven?
Have we found gravitons? The units of gravity?
Well, then you would suggest that it's a particle.
Have we demonstrated that through any evidence? Have we proven it in the lab? Of course we haven't.
God?
We're talking about gravity. You believe in gravity.
You're talking about God and you compare it to gravity. It's not the same thing.
The reason I am saying this is this. I'll tell you why.
And I never said I believe in
Gravity-
gravity. You just assume.
So why does that thing fall?
Situation if it's a strong
You know, when you drop the ball, why does it fall on the ground?
Because it has its own thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, is that what you believe? Do you believe in that?
No, I didn't say it. You-
Okay, why does it fall on the ground?
Because it does.
Because it does. Is this a good enough rational explanation?
He's taking his
Do I have to
position.
understand everything and I have to prove that I understand everything?
You see,
in order to say, oh, I don't believe in God.
Just
I
to
mean,
demonstrate
you
it's better.
expect way too much
These arguments are so
of
absurd.
my rationale why I don't even believe in God, whilst you gave me no reason to believe in one.
now I asked you the reason for your non-belief, then I can understand.
I don't have
Wait,
to tell you. I just told you that it's my choice. If I said that this
then how can
is
someone
God,
even give you any reason to believe? Because it's your choice at the end of the day.
if you are able to convince me that there is one,
Now, how can we convince someone when your conviction doesn't come from any reasoned approach? It's only
there
choice.
are reasons I have and that I am
Give us
not
that
told.
reason. This is what he's asking. Give us the reason.
You asking me to excuse myself why I don't believe in God, that nobody proved God's existence. How can you be so entitled to expect me to prove you that God doesn't exist, which you can't prove in the first place? That
Who
he
said we
does?
can't prove God exists?
To prove it.
Hang on. Where did you get the idea from God cannot be proven?
Sorry?
Where did you get this understanding that God is beyond any proof or evidence?
Can I see God now? Can I?
So let's understand.
experience
So
God?
you're
No,
so,
I don't have personal. That's why I'm saying.
Two things you've
religion
already
is a
said.
Personal experience. It's
so
something
you mentioned about
it's
two
a
things.
choice.
The criteria they've mentioned already. Can I see God? Can I experience God? So you're putting God into your reasons
You've been doing
that you have to
for the
see.
last
You have to see Him.
so
You have to
trying
experience
to
Him.
make God material and compare it to
Okay.
material items being produced
Have
by other people.
Have you seen my brain?
I can see very well.
No, you haven't seen my brain because I haven't shown you any X-ray images or MRI images of my brain. So you haven't seen my brain, and you.
We can agree it doesn't exist.
So you believe I don't have a brain, right? So you believe I don't have a brain because you haven't seen it.
I don't see it perform.
Sorry?
I don't see it perform.
Your criteria
But
was
I believe you're
in
moving
the
around, so you
the
must
criteria in accepting to believe there is a God, you have to see Him. You believe I have a
I
brain.
did not say that this is a condition and all of a sudden.
You mentioned it. Did you not mention it? We
I
can't
meant-
see Him.
Because you're asking me to excuse myself why I don't believe in God. That
You gave a reason.
exist.
You can't see Him. You can't see my brain. So according to the extension of your logic, perhaps my brain doesn't exist.
It has to because you're moving around and you're talking.
Right. The world moves around, right? The world moves around. You're moving around in this world. Can this world be a result of absolute nothingness in the distant past?
Yes.
What is absolute nothingness?
Well, it doesn't really exist.
So can it make something if it doesn't
Well,
exist?
there will be photons
So,
moving.
so
and
can
then-
absolute nothingness, which doesn't exist, make something like you and me?
Why does it have to be made?
Can it originate
It
something?
just happens. Things happen.
Why-
The problem about this is
I
you're
think-
talking about things that are.
I think we are now getting somewhere. If absolute nothingness doesn't exist, can it originate something that does exist, like you and me?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I'm a bit tired.
If absolute nothingness doesn't exist,
Yeah.
can it originate, while being non-existent, something like you and me? Or the universe, the cosmos?
I know everything. Do I?
That's
know
not my
that-
question.
Yeah, pretty much is. You
Absolute
asked me to
nothingness.
ask-
Absolute
you asked me
nothingness.
to answer very complex,
Simple question.
physical question.
Nope, it's a very simple question.
Well, I'm not really a
You
physicist.
think
It's a very simple question.
Doesn't mean it is simple because you call
It's
it
simple
simple.
because he already has an answer. God is the answer. If your answer
Who's
is
jumping the gun
God-
now?
Sorry?
I didn't say God. Absolute nothingness.
That's
You
where you
have
get
spent the
it.
whole interview jumping
Absolute
the gun.
nothingness is the absence of
To accuse
everything.
this wonderful lady of
Yeah.
such an act is disingenuous.
Absolute nothingness is the absence of everything. Absence of energy, absence of matter, absence of quarks, absence of quanta.
There is not really absolute
That's what I mean by absolute nothingness. Can this absolute nothingness, which is non-existent, originate or bring about something which is existent, like you and me?
But how do I know?
Very well. You know it very well already. That's why you're not willing to say it. Because the consequences of telling that is quite shifting in your paradigm of thought. Absolute nothingness, I can tell you that you can assert with 100% certainty, it cannot bring about anything.
So,
Because it doesn't exist.
but I already said that it doesn't exist. I said there are
So can it-
photons in the vacuum, so there
I'm
is
not talking about
actual
vacuum.
particles
I'm not
present.
talking about vacuums. I'm talking about absolute nothingness. Whereas there is no vacuum, whereas there is no photon, where there is no quantum fluctuations, whereas there is no virtual particles, simply devoid of everything.
But we're basing the whole conversation about the watchmaker fallacy. Why are we even doing this?
No, I asked you-
tell me that because nothing cannot create something, which is not true. You have antimatter and matter, and you have neutrinos jumping between those two.
Let's talk about this.
creating
Antimatter.
energy and
Is antimatter something or nothing? Is neutrino something or nothing?
I don't know. You tell me.
Something.
That is your definition. of
Something.
reality, right?
Something.
And we need objective
No, something.
reality.
I have been consistent with my definition,
You want to know more than
but you have not been consistent with your definition. Or have you been consistent with your definition?
Not being consistent.
When I say absolute nothing, it's the total devoid of antimatter, photons, neutrino, quarks, hadrons, leptons, gluons,
But
everything.
you're asking me a question about
I asked you-
nothingness that was supposedly 14 billion years before I was even alive.
There was not nothingness, there was something always.
Like you know the answer now, what happened.
Do you know why I know the answer? Because
Because you believe it.
No.
I don't.
No.
You believe you
Not
know
because
the
of that.
answer,
You
I
believe it because your
Not because-
community
Never
believes
not
it.
because of that, not because of
You
that.
believe it because your community
If
believes
something
it.
exists now,
That's why it's
there
true.
cannot be absolute nothingness in the past. That's why I believe,
Why?
because absolute nothingness cannot make something originate
How
something.
do you know that?
That's what we're arguing.
If I have, to give you, let me illustrate what I mean by that. My friend who's not here,
Why people used to believe that if it's raining from a cloud, that is
Sure.
nothingness, really. That there's a cloud, looks like nothing, it's not solid, it's a gas. How come it's raining? People had an
You-
idea about that.
you understood what I mean by
Used
absolute
that.
nothingness, right?
So there will be eventually time
Firstly-
where God and His existence will be
firstly,
the bank.
you understand what I mean by absolute nothingness. Am I
I
right?
don't really know, because you're asking me very complex questions about physics.
So,
and quantum physics,
when I say
and
nothing-
things happening certain
Okay.
years
I have a wallet.
Only a theory.
I have a
that
wallet.
you never know the
I have a
answer.
wallet in my pocket. If I said I have no money, nothing, what do you understand by that?
And that's what this lady's saying.
That you have to get a job.
No. How much money do I have?
I don't know. Now.
I said nothing, no money. So how much money do I have?
It depends how much material items you have that you could sell.
No.
And how much
In my-
energy
in my
you
wallet-
create through getting a job and
In
work.
my wallet,
That's
if I
your
said,
money, whatever money you can create over your lifetime.
if
that
I
is your
said
money.
in my wallet I have no money, how much money do I have in my wallet?
Who called it wrong?
I just answered that question. You asked
Which
me
is?
the exact same question.
What is the
over and
answer?
over again.
What is the answer?
The answer will be not different. I just answered this question. I said that you have as much money as you're capable of creating, as you're capable of earning, as you're capable of taking whatever you have on top of you and selling it. That's how much.
How many? How many?
I'll give you. Now you have money. This is money. So,
How many cat is in your cup?
sorry?
How many cat is in your cup?
Cats.
C-A-T, cat. Dog, cat. How many cat is in your cup? Real life cat.
Do I have them?
I'm asking you.
2 right now.
Okay, nice talking to you.
No.
Take care.